Before we dive into this twisted tale, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash like, and leave a comment if you think you can handle the darkness lurking in the shadows. This isn't just a story, it's a descent into obsession, betrayal, and murder. It was a cold November night in the outskirts of Little Rock, California. The desert air was thin and still, carrying a silence so heavy it felt almost unnatural. Streetlights flickered along the empty roads, casting long shadows that twisted like snakes across the asphalt. At first glance, the neighborhood looked normal. Rows of modest homes, parked cars, and the distant hum of highway traffic. But that night, a storm was brewing, and it wasn't weather. Rachel Castillo had been missing for nearly 24 hours. Her neighbors had noticed the absence, a mailbox overflowing, her car still in the driveway, the faint smell of dinner left uneaten. She had been cautious, always aware of the tensions between her and her estranged husband, Zarbab Ali. They had fought relentlessly in the past year, a toxic combination of jealousy, betrayal, and mounting anger. Divorce papers had been filed, but the resentment hadn't faded. If anything, it had grown more dangerous. Detective Elena Martinez was the first to arrive at the scene, summoned by a neighbor who had seen a suspicious vehicle parked late at night. She was a seasoned investigator, known for her meticulous attention to detail and her unflinching resolve in the face of grotesque crimes. As she approached Rachel's apartment, she noticed something off. An unlocked door, a trail of muddy footprints leading toward the kitchen, and a broken frame that once held a family photo. Each clue whispered danger. Each shadow hinted at violence. Meanwhile, in the darkness of his car parked several blocks away, Zarbab Ali watched. His fingers drummed against the steering wheel, eyes darting nervously toward the apartment building. To anyone else, he might have appeared calm, but the truth was far more sinister. He had planned this meticulously, every step, every lie, every hidden threat mapped out in the back of his mind. Tonight, he wasn't just angry. He was a man consumed by a compulsion he couldn't control. Back inside, Detective Martinez discovered a chilling note on the kitchen counter. Rachel had written it hastily, fear etched into every letter. "If anything happens to me, it's him." The words hung in the air like a scream that never left the room. Martinez knew instantly this was no ordinary disappearance. This was personal, violent, and calculated. Hours later, a call came from a desert patrol. A shallow grave had been discovered near an abandoned dirt road. Barely a mound, barely disturbing the sand, but the evidence was undeniable. As Martinez and her team arrived, the moonlight revealed the horrifying truth. Personal effects from Rachel's apartment were scattered near the site. There was no mistaking it. This was no random crime. Someone had lured her here, and someone had buried her. But when they examined the ground more closely, something froze them in place. The grave had been disturbed, not once, but twice. And etched in the dirt, a single word, smeared in urgency: monster. And just like that, the case became more than a murder. It became a hunt. Detective Elena Martinez had worked homicide for nearly 15 years, but nothing about this case followed the rules. Nothing behaved the way a murder scene should. The shallow grave in the desert, a place where criminals usually hid their secrets, wasn't a final resting place. It was a revolving door. Someone had dug it once to bury Rachel Castillo, and then dug it again to pull her out. That detail gnawed at her harder than anything else.
By dawn, the desert was swarming with investigators, drones hovering above, floodlights turning the pale sand into a stage of horror. Martinez crouched near the grave, gloved fingers brushing against the uneven soil. The dirt told a story. Different shovel marks, different pressure, different directions. Someone had come back. Someone who wasn't finished. The word monster, smeared into the sand with a shaking hand, haunted her. Was it a message from a passing hiker? A sick taunt from the killer? Or worse, Rachel's last attempt to reveal her murderer? Back at headquarters, the apartment was under forensic lockdown. Blood traces found beneath the rug, a cracked cell phone hidden behind the couch, an overturned chair that spoke of a struggle. Every detail pointed towards someone Rachel had trusted enough to let inside, and every path led to the same person, her estranged husband, Zarbab Ali. They brought him in for questioning by mid-morning. Zarbab sat calmly across from Martinez in the interrogation room, a half-empty bottle of water on the table, his eyes cold and unreadable. He insisted he had nothing to do with Rachel's disappearance. He smiled occasionally, at the wrong times, in the wrong ways, like someone practicing normalcy without understanding it. "When's the last time you saw your wife?" Martinez asked. He replied smoothly, 3 days ago. We talked about the kids, nothing unusual. But he was lying. His phone records said otherwise. Then there was the neighbor's statement, a man matching his description lurking near the apartment the night Rachel vanished. There were the tracks found near the grave, similar tread to his boots, and there was the growing suspicion that this crime was not impulsive, it was obsessive. Still, they had no body, no autopsy, no confirmation of death, no murder charge. Martinez was forced to let him walk out of the station. As Zarbab stepped outside into the crisp morning air, he didn't look relieved. He looked victorious, like a man who had already accepted the darkness inside himself. Meanwhile, the investigation escalated in terrifying ways. Forensics uncovered something chilling. Fragments of desert soil inside Rachel's apartment. Soil matching the burial site. That meant the killer had tracked it back to the home after the burial, or after something even worse. Then, a new piece of evidence arrived. A set of tire tracks from the desert road. Clear, deep impressions. A match to a rental car Zarbab had taken out the night Rachel disappeared. But just as Martinez prepared a warrant, everything took a shocking turn. Late that evening, a hiker called 911 from the outskirts of the valley. Another disturbance in the desert. Another shallow patch of overturned earth. Martinez raced to the location. This time, the grave wasn't empty. It contained a body. But what stunned them all was that the body had already been buried once before, and whoever dug it up had done something unspeakable. The wind cut through the desert like a blade as Detective Martinez stepped toward the disturbed grave. Floodlights carved harsh shadows across the sand, illuminating the form lying half-covered beneath the loose dirt. A crime scene technician knelt beside the body, his expression frozen in a mixture of disgust and disbelief. He whispered, "It's her! It's Rachel!" But there was something else, something worse. The soil around her wasn't just moved, it was torn apart, as if someone had frantically dug with both hands, desperately trying to reach what should stay buried. Martina swallowed hard, forcing herself to stay steady. She'd seen brutality before, murders motivated by rage, by greed, by fear. But this was obsession turned monstrous. Rachel's body showed signs of being handled after death, not by animals, by someone who had come back, re-exhumed her, violated her dignity, and then covered her again as if trying to hide his crime for a second time. It wasn't just murder now. It was depravity. Within hours, detectives had gathered enough forensic evidence to secure an arrest warrant. The soil on Rachel's clothing matched the particles found in Zarbab Ali's car. His fingerprints were on the shovel discovered near the gravesite, and the most damning detail, his cell phone pinged at the exact location, twice, once the night she disappeared, and again the next morning. Martinez and her team surrounded his apartment before sunrise. Zarbab opened the door, calmly, almost peacefully, as if he had been expecting them, as if the weight of what he had done no longer burdened him. In the interrogation room, his facade began to unravel.
He stared at the table for a long moment before speaking, voice low, flat, almost rehearsed. "I loved her," he murmured, "but love wasn't enough. Not for her, not after everything." Martinez leaned forward. "You buried her, and then you went back. Why?" Silence. He blinked slowly, as though sifting through the last fragments of his conscience. When he finally answered, his voice cracked, not with sorrow, but with a twisted relief. "Because I needed to see her again," he whispered. "Because I couldn't let go. Because I became something else." He inhaled deeply, shaking. "I dug her up. I touched her. I did things I can't explain, things no one should ever do." He didn't look up. He didn't cry. He simply said the words that would haunt the room forever. "I am a monster." The trial that followed gripped the nation. Prosecutors detailed every heinous step, every obsessive decision. A jury listened in disbelief as forensic specialists explained how Zarbab Ali had exhumed Rachel's body, violated it, and attempted to rebury her before fleeing the scene. The verdict was swift. Guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, desecration of human remains, and aggravated special circumstances. Zarbab Ali was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the end of the trial wasn't the end of the story. 3 months later, Detective Martinez received a sealed envelope at her desk. No return address, no message, only a photograph tucked inside. It showed the original gravesite, freshly disturbed. Again. Her blood ran cold. But this time, there were no tracks around it, no shovel marks, no evidence of anyone digging. Only one word stuck to the sand with a broken twig: still. Martinez stared at it for a long time before whispering under her breath, "If you thought this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one." And just like that, the darkness wasn't finished. Not even close.